I use this thing. This is the Migrafter. I keep thinking it says Megagrafter, but it doesn't. Graft is kind of like a old English terminology for work, if you didn't know that, if you're from another part of the world and didn't kind of like know what that meant. Graft equals work. So this basically means my worker. This is your worker. This was created by a man called Paul, who's a Yorkshireman, who suffered a back injury, unfortunately, and couldn't find a spade that fit his needs. So he went about designing this thing which fit his needs and also fit my needs. I didn't know that this was going to fit my needs, but it does. Pointers, right? You don't think that you need a pointer when you're metal detecting. You just don't. You think, I'm going to dig a hole and then I'm going to find the thing. My metal detector will do that for me. And then you somehow get hold of a pointer, or you use a pointer, and after about 5 times you're kind of, you know, you're proficient in using the pointer. But if you stop using a pointer from that point on, you really notice not having a pointer, right? It's something that happens to all of us, I'd say, after about 5 hunts. It's the same with this. I did it until I had it. I can't imagine using any other spade. In fact, I really don't want to use any other spade from this point on. This is perfection. And there's a kind of like a philosophy that surrounds this as well, which has got nothing to do with Paul. It's more to do with how I perceive this spade. We'll talk about the spade in a second, what I like about it, but I just want to quickly mention that this is created by a one-man team in a shed in Yorkshire. This guy, he felt, suited his needs and would, like, you know, and suit other people's needs. He firmly believed in his idea and went ahead and did it. And I think in this day and age, that should be applauded, especially in this day and age where, you know, Britain, Australia, Canada, America, loads of European countries, Germany, you know, the Dutch are trying to pull back industry and and integrity and ingenuity in their industries, trying to alleviate the copy and paste products that we and component parts that we outsource to China. This is made by a one-man team, and I think that should be applauded. Now, all of my family are from up north, from where Paul hails, up in Yorkshire. I'm a Yorkshireman by proxy, actually. My granddad, after World War II, come down south. He's a Yorkshireman. Well, he was a Yorkshireman. Come down south, and my dad just decided to stay down south. So literally, all of my clan are northerners, and I'm literally the only one left down here now in the south. And I understand and appreciate the work ethic and the ethics of that part of the world, and that kind of soul almost seeps into this product as far as I'm concerned. It's ridiculously hard, but the engineering on it is perfect. That's probably what I'm trying to say in a nutshell here. You see, now this is carbon fibre. The stem itself is carbon thick, like so. I'm 6 foot tall on the dot, and if I push it to its highest, like this is like how Millie likes his spades, because he doesn't have to bend so much. So at its highest peak, at its highest point there, it comes up to my belly button on the 6 foot tall. So there's no, I don't know if you can see, but there's no real kind of needing to bend over and put my back into it too much. And because of the carbon fibre, it is ridiculously light. It's just so light. It's like a feather. It's so strange, because you feel like when you're digging in, you feel like you're going to bend it and it's going to snap. If you're in really hard ground, you're going to bend it, it's going to snap. But it just doesn't. This stuff is so tough. It just doesn't break. Just doesn't break. So this is obviously painted. It's a stainless steel, I believe. What I really like, I had to take out a small tree, a friend's small tree, and I love these serrated edges here, so I could be able to cut through the roots and then dig, and then cut through the root and dig. Now, if you are interested in woods metal detecting, then that's going to be perfect for you. One thing I don't appreciate about woods metal detecting is roots. This solves that. Cut, 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 dig, cut, 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 dig. It has these stands. Some people don't appreciate the stands. I really appreciate the stands. If you look at the bend of that as well, if you don't have that bend and you have stands, you do have a chance of kind of like slipping and injuring yourself. What I most appreciate about these, it's got these like tough Velcro bits here, but also if you use a conventional spade that you buy from a garden centre, for example, the corners of those spades they tend to be quite sharp. So I've lost about 3 or 4 pairs of boots just by constantly digging down and the corners digging up into my boot. That's not going to happen here. And it's just going back to like the engineering of it as well. It's very strange because you put your foot down like that and it's just, I don't put any effort into the blooming thing. It digs itself almost. It's a very, very strange experience for a spade. But going down to its shortest, it goes down to, I would say, again, I'm 6 foot, so it just goes up above my crown jewels, right? So it's just above there. And of course, you can split this into 2 parts if you are on the move. Let's just quickly do that. There you go, just like that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I can show you videos of me digging with it, but I'm digging. You can't really get that point across on camera. You know, you can only experience that yourself. This is nice and sharp. Again, it's just absolute perfection, and I can't imagine using anything else, and I kind of like rue the day that I might have to, although
It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detecting Show, and I was just fixing something. Good evening, Adrian. How are you?
I'm fine. You, David?
I'm okay. I'm knackered.
Good.
I can't see properly. I'm that tired. Yes, it's. Luke found there's a new way of doing something where it sends out an automatic message on the Facebook and what have you to tell you the show's about to start. So I presumed automatically, I think we both did, that it was going to automatically start showing the video, but it actually shares it again at 8 o'clock. So somebody's just let me know that was the case on the website, on the bigdetectingshow.com. So it's fixed now. It's fixed. But now we know for the future. Are you well, young Mr. Gaylor?
I'm now. I was very ill Monday night. I think it's something I ate. And no, I didn't have the hangover of the century after the pubs. I did go to the pub on Monday, had a couple of pints, but I was really ill. I was off work Tuesday. It's really rough. I caught a bug or something. So, yeah. But I'm all right now. Went out to texting last week.
You went to the pub and you had beer and
2
you were
pints.
Ill, and you didn't go to work the next day.
No, but my boss trusts me and I was very rough. But I went in today. So,
maybe it's because it's been so long. It's been so long that you've actually become You can't.
It was weird. It wasn't that enjoyable. It was lovely. The beer was lovely, but it was cold, and it wasn't that busy, to be honest. But I think we're slowly getting back to normal. Slowly, fingers crossed. As long as people still obey stuff and that.
My
but
pub's still not open. My pub's still not open.
Why? Oh, beer garden.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's got a massive beer garden. You can spend all summer there, but it's just it's not open. In fact, it's so good a beer garden that I've detected it and had all sorts of Vicky coins and everything off there, and pound coins.
That'd be my worst nightmare, detecting a pub beer garden. Yeah. Did you find anything?
Shall we introduce tonight's guest, Adrian?
Yes.
I'll let you do the honours tonight.
We've got Kerrie on from the Lost History tapes of history.
Lost tapes of history.
Yeah, cassettes, could be cassettes. Kerrie Fuller from the Lost History cassettes. And it's very funny, her podcast, if anyone has listened to it yet. So welcome, Kerrie. Hi, Kerrie.
Good evening,
Hi,
Kerrie.
thank you. Your check's in the post for your compliment. Thank you very much for that.
That's all right.
And it's absolutely fantastic to have a guest whose stream is good.
Well, you've just jinxed it now, yeah, but it was up till now, but it'll probably go wrong now.
you haven't met the curse of the Big Detecting Show yet, and I'm sure you will throughout the evening. It'll be me probably this week again.
It's early days, it's early doors, yeah.
So, Kerrie, please introduce yourself. I mean, we'll go on to the podcast later. Obviously, a lot of people won't have heard about it, and that's why we've invited you on to discuss it tonight. But tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm coming to you from sunny Croydon. So if there's anybody in my neck of the woods, hello. I'm living here for a couple of years now. Come from Maidstone in Kent originally, which has got a lot of history. I miss going back there actually because my parents now live up in Scotland, so I don't go back to Maidstone as often as I'd like. But whenever I hear a kind of Kentish story about history, I always think, oh, that's my home county. That's where all the history's from. By day I run my own business. I'm a membership consultant, so anybody that's a member of anything will know what membership organisations are. So that's what I do during the day, and then very much like a superhero by night, I write history things. That's my passion. That's my love, as it were. I'm sure everybody watching will have the same thing. It's history is your passion. It's the thing that keeps you sane, I think, actually, for the past year. It's been the thing that's kept me sane.
Sadly for ourselves in the metal detecting world, it was banned. It was against the law to go metal detecting for a long, long period of time. So a lot of it has been spent with heads in books and noses in the internet. So there you go.
Yeah, that's crazy though, because you're outside and people have been allowed to go fishing and being allowed to do stuff that's outside. So that seems crazy to me.
Yes, very much so. It was really frustrating, especially when I used to drive to work and there was a fishing lake near my work, and I'd regularly see 3-4 people get out of the same car and go fishing. And I thought, I could be in the middle of a field with my friend in the middle of nowhere. Meeting up with him, detecting, causing no harm. But we all abided by the law. But we're allowed out now under certain rules and regulations. So everyone's sort of a bit happy. So all good stuff. How, just a quick question. Dave, you've probably got loads of questions and I'm probably going to ask one before you. What on earth made you think of creating a podcast with this title?
I think it was because I realised the format lended itself nicely to eavesdropping. That's the way that I've described it, is that it's like eavesdropping on a conversation between two people, one of which is a monarch and the other one is somebody in a very modern context. And I thought, well, you could film it, but actually podcasting is much easier to get into for your first attempt for doing something because it requires less equipment. And you're not restricted to costumes, and you're not restricted to sets, and you're not restricted to filming and all that sort of thing. So I thought, well, it lends itself nicely. If you're eavesdropping on somebody, then it needs to be audio. And, I'm old school. I remember cassette tapes. I remember when you used to put the pencil in and you used to wind it on. And, that I'm old school, so I like the idea of going back to, imagine finding all these cassette tapes and then listening to them, and this is what you would hear. So I purposefully put there's a noise on the podcast that starts off every podcast, which is the kind of old-fashioned clunk, rewind, play noise, which I get very nostalgic about noises like that. I get nostalgic about the modem connection noise now as well. I mean, it's like...
I was funny you should say that. I was talking to someone at work today about that, and I did my sort of... And then we were talking about computer games, which are on cassettes. But I, funnily enough, about 6 months ago, found some cassettes in my dad's old house. And I got a bit excited, and I managed to find a cassette recorder, and I put one in, and it was from an answering machine in the mid to late 80s from my dad's work, and it was the funniest thing I've ever heard for a long time, because even though they weren't new then, they weren't modern. So there were people, hello? Is anyone there? Hello?
Yes, mate.
Do I leave a message? And my father worked in newspaper distribution, so there were a lot of different cultures, shall I put it, on the voice recording, and it was really, really funny. And I've still got it. And I WhatsApped it to my brother, and I thought, yeah, we've forgotten all this technology, because I loved cassettes and videos as well. They were great, and at times it's great syncing your phone up to your car, but it's a bit frustrating. A cassette, I still think to this day, was a lot easier to fast forward and rewind than and
the romanticness of when you met somebody and you put a mixed tape together. A mixed playlist on Spotify just doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it, does it?
Kerrie, did you illegally tape the top 40?
Of course. And then the trick was you had to press pause whenever the announcer would start to come in, and then you'd always get it wrong because they always talk over the music. You think, oh shit, I'm going to have to rewind that bit and start again. Yeah.
And now we have Adamant. Adrian, tea's ready. It's sort of my mum shouting from the other room, but it's something. Sorry, totally going off on your podcast. But that's an interesting. So, what you just thought? Oh, I'll do a podcast on these things you've got in history. Did you write it all yourself, or?
Yeah. It's been about 18 months in the making. I mean, we launched it in January, but it from the original idea, it took 18 months to research, because I had to read a book on every single monarch. So that took a while, because there's 37 of them. So I had to read the books and do the notes, and then I had to write the scripts, and then you had to go back and edit them, because I wanted them all at least 10 minutes. I didn't want anything too short. I didn't want a sketch. I knew that I wanted it between 10 and 20 minutes, and you go back and keep adding more information in to make sure that they all fit the time scale. And then I had to find the actors. I had to cast it. I had to do auditions with actors. I mean, thank God for lockdown in a way, because I had a captive audience of people that weren't doing a lot and said, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to help out. I'm happy to record this thing, whatever it is. I'm not sure I would have got that kind of response. I mean, I had like 50 or 60 people sign up to say, they'd be happy to do it. So I'm not sure I'd have got that response if I'd have been doing it when we were all walking around normally, maybe. I don't know. But it took quite a long time to get everything done. And then once I'd recorded it, which was done in like October time, I had a fun month of editing all 37, and making sure the theme songs were in the right order and learning how to use Audacity and all that kind of thing. So talk about labour of love. It definitely kept me busy during lockdown. That's the thing that kept me going, is that I had something to work on every day.
Wow. Dave, have you got a question before I ramble?
You've said it all, mate. No need now.
Sorry.
So when you said you auditioned, did you actually put a editorial out asking for people to apply and such like, or is it made up of people you knew already?
I knew one actor who wasn't acting anymore. He actually drives a train now. He's a tube driver, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." Because you just think, well, reach out to people who've got time on their hands and have done this before. But I actually wrote an advert on Mandy.com, which is like an actors forum, And, anybody can put like a free advert on there, and you just put what you're looking for, and then you wait and you sort of sit back and wait for people to say whether they're interested. And I made the very foolish thing of saying anybody that wants an audition can get one, because I just thought I'm not in a position to turn people away, so I will give every single person an audition. So I had 70 hours of time where I had to slot in auditions with everybody and recorded them doing little bits. And then I had the momentous task of slotting in all the roles and working out who was going to play what. And it was very difficult to get people who could do a French accent, because the first 10 kings I gave French accents to, so that you'd know they were born in France. That's the cheats thing. If you listen to the podcast, whatever accent the monarch has, that's where they were born. So that's an easy way to remember their culture. And I couldn't find enough people to do a convincing French accent, because it sounded a bit hello. They were like, I was pissing by the door. And I was like, yeah, I know it's funny, but I don't want to take the absolute... I'll get letters from French people going, look, can you stop ripping off our language, please? So some of the actors had to play more than one role, because I needed some French speakers, but it's worked out okay. Yeah.
One thing that we haven't asked yet, we've jumped ahead a little bit. What is the Lost Tapes of History? Because obviously a lot of people don't know that.
Well, I guess I can sort of answer that in where it started from as well, I guess, because the original idea, funnily enough, was the next episode that will come out on Tuesday coming up is Richard III and the police. And that was the original idea that spawned it all, is that I'm interested in true crime as well, right? So, my love of history and crime kind of mingled sometimes. And I remember watching a documentary about Richard III, and it's all about, did he kill the boys in the tower? And I was thinking, well, if there was a modern day police force and they had him in, it would be, what does the evidence say? Because that's how the law works, is what does the evidence say? It's not whether they did it or not, it's what does the evidence say? And that made me think, God, I really would love to watch that. I'd really love to watch Richard III in a police interview being questioned and trying to get away with it, or kind of get around the answer, or, whatever. And then I thought, hang on a minute, what other contexts could you put monarchs in? Suddenly you're thinking, oh, well, it's, Queen Victoria and a grief counsellor. It's Henry VIII and a trust therapist. It's suddenly, you start thinking about all these monarchs, and you start thinking about all the different contexts that you'd put them in order to really understand who they were as human beings. So that's what I've ended up doing, is I've taken, from William I, we start with William I, and we end with Edward VIII. So as I say, there's 37, and they've all been put into a modern context that shows off their psychology. I'm fascinated by these people as human beings. Like, if you went to a party and you met them, what would you think of them? Who would be the guy in the corner trying to avoid talking to everybody? Who'd be dancing on the table? Which monarch would have people around him telling stories, and you'd be like laughing and joking and getting him a drink? And, who'd be in the corner flirting with all the women? These were real human beings. But when you read an academic history book, you don't really get that impression of who they were. Would you like them? If you met them, would you actually like them? So I've just tried to put them into contexts that are probably quite stressful for them. I don't think a lot of them actually want to be there. Very often they're with a therapist or a counsellor, because quite honestly, a lot of them really, really could have done with some counselling. And it just means that through that context, you get to learn a little bit more about them as a human being. So that's kind of, I call it kind of Horrible Histories meet Psycho Bitches, if anybody remembers Psycho Bitches. It was a really good Sky Arts thing about, Rebecca Frump played a therapist, and all these different females from history would come in and get, their therapy sessions. So it's kind of Horrible Histories meet Psycho Bitches, I would say.
We've had a great comment in the chat room. Gareth Howard, Richard III says no comment to every question put forward.
If his solicitor was with him, that's exactly what he'd be saying, yeah. But unfortunately, he doesn't have a solicitor with him.
But does he know who H is?
Oh, well.
It's interesting you say, though, Horrible Histories, because when, I don't know, my kids watched that years ago when it first came out, and the actual, if you read it on paper, you'd think, kids won't watch this. It's boring. It's the sort of thing that was forced upon me at secondary school by a bad actor on BBC Two. But that's taken off and done really well, isn't it? So it's a great way of sort of, I'm not saying that your podcast will teach history to children, but it's a way of sort of exciting the actual history around us.
It's like the thing that's really amazing is how Horrible Histories has a massive adult audience. It has a massive adult audience because people have watched it with their kids, or it's been on in the background and they've kind of listened to it. And I hated history at school, absolutely hated it, because the way that it was taught was incredibly dull and incredibly boring, and it was obsessed with battles and it was obsessed with political stuff. And you're thinking, yawn, come on, let's talk about something a bit more interesting. So what Horrible Histories has done is educated like a whole, adult generation that history can be really interesting. And you've just got to find an access point. You've got to find the bit that's interesting, the hook that makes people go, really? And obviously Horrible Histories, it's all about the horrible stuff that happened. That's why they know kids are going to be interested. But I just think that's a great attitude. If you can find the fun stuff in learning, it stops being learning, it starts being interesting, and you just get so much more swept up in the passion of it when you can laugh, really. Because actually some of them are absolutely oddballs, they're really funny characters, and the humour writes itself, to be honest.
So that's interesting. You didn't have an interest in history at school, but obviously your podcast is about history. So what was it that suddenly switched you to think, oh, I'll do history rather than, 1970s Birmingham people in a pub, for example?
I got into history through genealogy, actually. I think that in my 20s, I started looking at our family tree. And suddenly you realise that history didn't happen to strangers, it happened to your family. And all the things that you've read about in history, your family went through that. I mean, we talked about the war, and my parents and I sit a lot and talk about, the Black Death. And we say, well, we're looking at the pandemic now, you're only around today because your family survived the Black Death. That's the only reason you're here. And you think, oh, yeah, actually, all this stuff that we talk about isn't removed. It's something that happened to your flesh and blood, and the only reason you're here is because they survived it and because X, Y, and Z happened. And suddenly those events came to life for me. Suddenly I wanted to find out where they lived and what jobs they did, and all that social history, which actually I feel like is missing from the curriculum. Social history seems to be sort of glossed over. And I find that stuff most interesting. Like what shops did people shop at? What brands did everybody know about 100 years ago, but now have completely disappeared? These were things that people, lived on a day-to-day basis. And the battles are important. The political stuff is important. But I like micro history. That to me is macro history. It's happening at a sort of national level. I like the stuff that happens on a day-to-day, everyday people. This is what they ate. This is what they wore. This is what they did. This is how they talked. I don't know, that stuff is much more human, I guess, human to me. So yeah, it was all genealogy's fault, really. And then I guess as an adult, this is the brilliant thing about when you're an adult and you can choose what you learn about. Yeah. Then you just let your imagination go crazy and you can read everything you want to read and you can watch all the documentaries, and suddenly your brain goes, oh, this is so interesting. I wish they taught it like this at school.
Yeah, it's right. Someone in the chat, History Unearthed, he said the brilliant thing about our hobby of metal detecting is it puts a different spin on history. And I wasn't interested in history like you at school. Found it completely boring, probably down to the teacher, sadly, who was just like, but with metal detecting, you go out and you can find anything from Roman, medieval, 1970s Coke can, you can find anything. And it does bring that bit of history back to you, and you research it, not a Coke can, but you research your stuff, and it makes it a little bit more exciting because there's something behind that thing you found. So
somebody touched it. There's that thing of who was the last person to touch this, and did it fall out of their pocket, or did they purposefully put it there? Or I'm obsessed with that. That's amazing.
Well, one of the common things, and Dave, you'll back me up on this, is when you find musket balls or lead shot that's been chewed before it's been shot. You know about that, Dave, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously the bacteria from their teeth gets into the lead, and when they fire the bullet and it goes into your skin, that will more likely cause an infection. And when you find a musket ball with teeth marks around it, and you think, crikey, that's like 300-400 years old or whatever it is. It's something like that really makes you think, wow, I'm the last person to touch that, possibly, put it in his mouth, bit on it, and those teeth marks are from that man, and that might have killed the person. He died on the spot, and his body decomposed. I'm going into detail, but yeah, it makes it like horrible histories, makes it more exciting. Or it could be just a bit of a
that was Adrian's morbid histories.
Yeah, morbid history. I found quite a few recently, actually, that have got teeth marks in. I haven't found many for a long time, but I found there must have been someone on the land near me in those days who was just chewing lead musket balls.
There's a lot of people in the chat room. They've all said basically the same thing, and that's school history is mainly influenced by the teacher. And that was one of the reasons I didn't take history in school, was because of the teacher who would have been taking it for the last 2 years. And I took geography, and it failed dismally due to the people in the class mainly. But I really wish I'd have took history, because I think I'd be far more benefit from it now than I have anything else, really.
Yeah.
Well, Kaylee's a prime example, isn't she, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Kaylee, who's been on the show. History of Kaylee. She does YouTube videos, which she started doing. I think she had an operation, didn't she, Dave, on her back? And she started doing it at home. Well, she's got people all over the world now, schools, asking to use her YouTube videos to educate the children, because she picks out the interesting stuff. And it's gone down really well. But yeah, I think
she's actually had 3 out this week, Adrian. It's been a big week for Kaylee. She's been very busy.
I've seen one of them. Yeah, I've seen one of them. But I think it's sad, because it's important, history, very important. And being able to bring humour into it with your lost tapes of history. I mean, would you, if you could put a certificate on your podcast, would there be one? 12?
You do actually have to, when you upload it to the registry, you do have to say whether it's explicit or clean. I've put clean, but it comes a bit close. I mean, there's a few sessions where they go to say the F word and I cut it, so that you know that they're about to say the F word, but I cut it in time. There's a few choice words in there that you think possibly children might not want to hear. I would have said teens. I would have said sort of 12 and up.
To understand it.
To get the references, maybe, and to get the sort of adherence to swearing and and that sort of thing. The other thing I should point out is that we do actually have one of our monarchs attending. I can see that Henry V, Dan has dialed in, who's actually Henry V. So we do actually have a monarch with us today. Just sort of bow my cap there.
Because they're very professional voice. Listening to the podcast, and I'm not being rude, I was expecting, I didn't know what I was going to expect, and listening to it, it was very professional voices and voiceovers. Are they all, is Dan, for example, a professional actor or voiceover artist?
Do you know, it's a real mix. So the guy, the lady in the intro, so the lady who says, welcome to the Lost Tapes of History, is my oldest friend that I've known since I was at junior school with. Not an actress, not a voiceover person, just somebody that I wrote in because I needed a different voice and she has a nice speaking voice. Whereas Fraser, who plays the narrator role, is a professional actor. He's actually recently been in It's a Sin, the Channel 4 thing. He was actually one of the actors in that. So he is a proper actor. And actually, I've got quite a lot of proper actors in it, but I also advertise with a comedy website. So I had a lot of comedy performers and comedy writers who also wanted to take part, and they were really good because if they're performers and writers, they get the comedy aspect. So I had a lot of proper actors going, so tell me about this monarch and what's my motivation for the role, and talk to me about the character, and and should I wear? One lady wore the full outfit. I said, you do realise it's audio, don't you? She said, yes, but I really just need to channel Elizabeth for this. I really just need to. And then you had the comedy people just absolutely knowing where the comedy line was going to lie and where the humour was going to lie. So it was lovely to work with lots of different people. I jumped on the bandwagon and I did a couple of characters because they were my favourite characters in writing. So I took the advantage of saying, well, I'm the writer, I get to pick the couple of characters that I can do myself. But yeah, it's tough. It's really. I mean, everybody hates the sound of their own voice as well. It's horrible. I listen back to it and go, God, don't do that again. But yeah, a lot of them were professional actors. Yeah, I was very lucky. I've got some really good people.
Well, what we're going to do now, Adrian, we're going to have a bit of a break. And what we're going to do, instead of doing what we normally do, we're going to play one of the Lost Tapes of History episodes. And we'll be playing Richard II of the Tarot Reader because I like it. So we might cut it a bit short because it's 14 minutes or so. We might give you the first 5 minutes or so just as an introduction. But you can find, people are asking where you find it. Just have a Google for the Lost Tapes of History. You'll find the website, and then you'll find also links to the different streaming sites. But if you also, obviously, if you've got the Archaeology and Metal Detective Magazine app on Android or Google. You done it, Adrian? Then you can go onto there, and we publish weekly the weekly episode on its own page, as you will see momentarily when I share the screen, which I am doing now. And I'm sharing the audio because I remembered. So if you give me one moment to do that, Mr. Higgins will bring it up for you, and we will see the episode I was on about. So there you go. Lost Tapes of History on the Archaeology and Metal Detective Magazine website, excuse me. And here we go.
Welcome to the Lost Tapes of History podcast. You're about to eavesdrop on the first few minutes of a private conversation between one of England's monarchs and, frankly, someone just trying to do their job.
The date is September 1394. Richard's wife, Queen Anne, has recently died and he is mourning his loss. He is worried about the future and goes to a tarot reader to shed some light on what he should do next. Well, he shouldn't have gone today. The moon is in reverse.
Come in, sit down, me lovely.
Would you mind?
I'm sorry?
You should bow at the knees.
Should I? Sorry. Oh. Is that all right?
It'll do.
Well, I don't have any other knees, so...
Is this all there is to sit on?
I'm afraid so. But there is a cushion.
You had better be good at this, Madam Zelda, or whatever your name is.
I shall do my best, Richard. That's all anybody can ask of me.
You shall refer to me as Royal Majesty, or High Majesty.
As you wish. My name is...
Not important. Continue.
Would you like to cut the cards? Have you come for a general reading today, or something more specific?
I wish to know the future.
Wouldn't we all? Okay, Rich, your Royal Majesty. We shall lay out the traditional spread then. Interesting. Oh my goodness. Okay.
What can you see? What is it?
Well, let's start with the past. We have the Knight of Wands, a man of action, adventure, and fearlessness. Who might that be?
That's my father, the Black Prince. He died when I was a boy.
How do you know he was a fearless adventurer then?
I've been told. Next card.
Okay, sorry. The Emperor card. An older man of authority and control. Who's that?
That's my grandfather, Edward III.
Good. Now we have the Ten of Wands. This signifies a time of accomplishment, but it carries a responsibility or burden. What might that refer to?
My coronation. I was only 10 years old.
Oh, that's very young.
My grandfather and father were both dead. It was a time of celebration, but I remember feeling as though it wasn't right. My father should have been standing there.
I'm glad he wasn't. There's not much room at the front of the Abbey.
Don't be glib.
Let's move on. The Six of Pentacles reversed. Power and domination. The opposite of giving and charity, so taken from others? What does that mean?
The poll tax?
Oh yeah, I remember that. 1 shilling per head, wasn't it? 3 times higher than before.
Yes, but we did withdraw it. Eventually.
Next card. The Ace of Wands. A creative endeavour that requires a lot of willpower and inspiration.
But I don't do anything creative.
I don't think it's something you directly produced. It's something quite revolutionary.
Wycliffe's Bible. I am fighting the damn book and all it stands for.
It makes no difference to me. I can't read.
Why doesn't that surprise me? What's the last card?
The Hierophant reversed. This usually means a rebellion of some kind. What does that mean to you?
The rebels.
Can you be more specific?
I met the rebels at Mile End and agreed to everything they wanted.
Good for the rebels, then.
I said they could hunt down all the traitors and bring them to me for justice.
I think I know how this ends. I didn't need to gaze into a crystal ball either.
They killed everyone. We had to take refuge at the wardrobe in Blackfriars.
You hid in a wardrobe?
I didn't hide, and it wasn't a wardrobe.
But you just said...
Can we focus on my incredible bravery here?
You're what?
I met Tyler again at Smithfield. I told them to go home, but one of my party stabbed him.
Ah.
The rebels realised something was wrong.
Ah.
They were about to attack when I led my horse amongst them and told them I was their leader now and that they should listen to me.
And it worked?
Don't sound so incredulous.
Sorry.
Stupid man. I did tell him, but he didn't listen. I said, you come in here shouting, death to all lawyers. I mean, I agreed with that, but I didn't say so.
Try not to spit on the cards.
Oh, I'm muted. Luke's put me back on. 6 minutes of the Lost Tapes of History. Turn me sound down now, Adrian. You're deafening me. 6 minutes of the Lost Tapes of History. Obviously, give it a Google or go on to their website, which is, well, in fact, it saved me looking. Kerrie, what's the website address?
It's losttapesofhistory.co.uk.
Exceptionally easy. But as I say, if you're missing out and you've got the app, have a look I usually do it every Wednesday. I didn't do it this week because I was not able to move very much last night, so I was unable to do it. But that will be on by the weekend, no problem. So tell us, Kerrie, how long does it take to actually make a single episode and obviously the editing and such like?
I would actually say the longest bit is the research and the writing, because once you've got the cast and you've recorded it, I mean, we recorded it in half an hour, as Dan will attest to. I literally got Zencaster up. I would have the 2 actors on the phone call, and we would record it like through a equivalent of like a Zoom call, and they had the script in front of them, and it was like a real conversation. So that's why it sounds so natural, is that the two actors were actually reading opposite each other, and I was just recording what they were doing at either end, and then kind of editing out all the bloopers, which were, hilarious. But the recording just didn't take very long at all, because it feels like a natural conversation. I wanted it to feel like a natural conversation. I didn't want it to feel too sort of stilted and acty. And then my editing skills got better as time went on. I mean, the first one took about 2 hours to edit down, and then after that, you realise what you're doing, and you can kind of build up and make it a bit quicker. But most podcasts, they kind of make it, and then they release it, and then they make the next one, and then they release it, and they make the next one. I decided, foolishly, I'm going to do all 37 done, ready to release. And then I'm going to start in January releasing one every week, so that all I'm focusing on then is the marketing. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Without lockdown, I don't think I would have done it, because I just had so much time to be able to just sit and do that. It was just, thank you, Dan. I'll pay you later. It's just so nice to work with. It was just so much fun, right? You're on the phone with these two people, having a laugh, reading the lines, talking about, the history, and I was meeting new people, and we were chatting about our lives. And, for somebody who lives on their own as well, the idea that I can have these chats with these people over a couple of weeks, it was just lovely to kind of meet all these new who all love history. That was also great. All the actors loved history as well, so they were all sort of really, really engaged with it and really excited. So, you guys know what it's like. If you meet people that like the same hobbies and the same things you do, you can talk for England, right?
Absolutely.
True. Yeah.
You don't get much metal detecting done when you're in a field with other people, do you, Adrian?
No, you don't. That's why I go on my own. I haven't got any mates either. No, well, two. One's my wife. With Kerrie, I saw someone in the chat, actually, Nicola Roberts, who listens to us quite a lot. Hi, Nicola. She won a metal detector the other week in one of our prize draws, but she said she's never listened to a podcast, and I can honestly say I drive to work every day. I have been in the last couple of weeks, not before then, but get a podcast on, listen to your podcast, because driving in the car, radio at the moment is rubbish. It's probably my age, because I listen to Radio 1 now, and I just think, what on earth is all, I won't say it, but it's all junk. And I can't find a radio channel I like, so I end up listening to like talk radio or something, and then they're talking about COVID. So whack a podcast on, and honestly, it can transform your journey to work. And I quite often listen to a podcast, like yours, for example, get to work, and normally I just get out the car, go straight into work, and I always get to work early. I sit in the car laughing. And people in the car park who pull up just look at me, and they know now I'm listening to a podcast. And I leave it right until the minute before I get into work. But especially if you're listening to something funny, it sets you up good for the day. Because I'm a strong believer in laughter is a good medicine. And if you laugh to a podcast, and one thing I do love is driving my car to work, looking across someone at the traffic lights, and they're going like this. That makes me laugh because I'm laughing at them. But podcasts, I think, like, you strongly agree, don't you, Dave? They're great. Podcasts are great.
Yeah,
YouTube's lovely.
I mean, if you remember, Adrian, we actually started the Big Detective Show as a podcast, and it was only because Luke forced me that we ended up doing the TV version, which we now transfer to podcast, because we still have a lot of people downloading or listening to it via Spreaker or whatever other area. Primarily, when they're going out onto metal detecting on a Sunday morning, they stick the podcast on to listen to a bit of what you're on now. Hello, everybody. And there you go. So, yeah, totally agree.
It's true. And how many episodes now has the Big Detecting Show done?
Tonight's is the 99th episode of the Big Detecting Show.
Ooh.
Next week will be 100 episodes weekly, and not missed any. I've missed one because I had coronavirus, so you and that lovely Mr. Aaron Weedle done it for me.
I wasn't on it, was I?
Weren't you? Yeah, you were. It was you and Aaron Weedle.
No,
it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't. It was Dean Stainton. He just looks like you.
Oh, Really?
No,
Well,
not at all.
I'd started. We've got the balloons up. I've got 2 balloons for next week. That one's from my birthday, which was Monday, which no one noticed. But
Happy birthday, Adrian, for Monday.
thank you. I don't like shouting about it because I've got the big one next year. No,
70.
next year's the big one. 40 next year. Sorry, we're waffling on, Kerrie. I do apologise. I'm totally going off track. Yeah. Bizarre. But yeah, next week's 100th episode.
Karen Becker's sending me a 100th birthday cake next week. She actually said, I am sending you a 100th birthday cake, Dave. The first bit might have just been in my head, though, so...
Well, I think you've done a great job, you and Luke, and the show's going from strength to strength. Kerrie, do you foresee your podcast or going further to potentially YouTube with actors, or I don't know, maybe even on Netflix? I won't say television because no one watches it anymore. But would you, if you had the time? I know you've got a full-time job like all of us, but if you had the money and the time, would you like to progress it more into a YouTube channel? And that lady who did dress up for the part would actually be able to dress up again.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing some research to see whether you could animate it and do like an animated cartoon version almost and do that on YouTube, because again, that would get round the costumes and the actors thing. You could just animate it. But actually, one of my actors said to me, I could see this at Edinburgh. I could see you doing a 20-minute, because it's very easy. It's a set, very basic set, and it's 2 actors. So you could quite easily do it as a live kind of Edinburgh set, or you could film it and do it as... Yeah, I'd love to do that. I mean, I think there is obviously an appetite for stuff like that. It's if you think about some of the stuff on Netflix, like the history of swear words, and Comedy Central does something about, drunk history, and history and comedy naturally sits together. So it makes sense. It's the sort of... the content that people find entertaining. So yeah, I mean, if I got the call from any broadcaster, I wouldn't be saying no. But I don't know. There's something about a creative vision where I made a point of saying I don't want to sell this to Radio 4. I don't want someone to pick it up and say, well, we'll commission it. Because as soon as somebody pays for it, their input comes in and they take it how they want to do it. And I just think, no, I had a vision in my head of how I wanted this to go and how I wanted the soundtrack to be and how I wanted the actors to sound. And just, it makes sense? I just thought, I mean, also I'm a micromanager and I have control issues. But other than that, I just thought, no, I want this to be my creative vision. So this isn't about getting funding for it. It's about, putting it out there. So I would have to find some lovely broadcaster who just said, we'll have it exactly as it is and we won't change it. And that's very rare these days.
Luke in the ethers just messaged me to say that you should get a couple of actors in and live stream via the big show. Live stream theatre. There you go.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, I've also actually just saying to is it Rob who said, is Kerrie going to Detectival because he wants to interview me for his podcast in a camper van? That sounds fantastic. I'm up for that, Rob.
That'd be very good on the stage, Dave, wouldn't it?
It would be a Detectival, yes. Karen, get on it. Karen Becker. Detectival, obviously, you may not know, Kerrie, is the biggest event in the country. It's been going for about the past 4 or 5 years now, which is basically a festival, but for metal detecting. So you've got all your stalls there, all your different sellers, nighttime entertainment, and a big stage, which we're allegedly, maybe, potentially going live from this year.
I think that's for the bingo.
That's not a problem. I could do bingo. I know some of them. 2 little ducks, something or other, 22, maybe.
Politically correct bingo.
You couldn't let me do that then, could you?
No.
Especially next to a beer wagon.
Yeah. It's a really good... because of COVID, it all went a bit pear-shaped last year. We didn't have one, but I could see that Kerrie and someone dressed up, or people dressed up, it would go down quite well, actually. It'd be quite funny. And also you could probably be a bit more open on your language with adults there. So I'm probably going to get in trouble saying that.
What about, Karen's just sort of give me an idea, Drunken Histories, post 9 o'clock, Drunken Big Detecting Show at Detectival.
I'd struggle with that, Dave, I think.
Why? Because you'll be asleep like that because you're old?
No, I'd obviously not drinking much. I don't really like alcohol. So I'd probably just bow out of that one, mate.
That's a go then, Karen.
Yeah, it sounds very, very good. I just laugh. That would go completely wrong. That would go completely wrong. That really, really would. Completely
Kerrie, you've said you've got 37 episodes. What happens after episode 37?
Well, I'm actually doing research for season 2 as we speak.
And it's got to be sort of more of the same thing.
Well, the trouble is, once you've done all the monarchs, what do? You know, I've sort of made a rod for my own back, and I thought, oh damn, what am I going to do now? So
you can go to all the Anglo-Saxon kings, and you can go to the Viking lords.
It's difficult to get because you need enough research, you need enough stuff to the facts to put in. So what I've decided is I'm gonna because obviously everybody had the same job title. It was all monarchs. So what I've decided is it's going to be lots of different job titles, but one time period. Whereas before it was across time periods. So it's going to be the Tudor period, and it's going to be all personalities from the Tudor period. So we've got Sir Francis Drake with a health and safety officer. We've got, you can just see it, can't you? Somebody coming on and going, well, you know, does that rope absolutely have to be there, or can you just get it off? You know, it's just lends itself. So they're all going to have a sort of modern job title person opposite them, so that you get that kind of lovely interplay between a historical character and then a job title of probably a Jobsworth, who's going to help them along their little story. So we've got all the wives of Henry VIII; they can all have their own little slot, and we've got a couple of Scottish kings, and the personalities like Wolsey and Cromwell and Sir Thomas More, but also some other ones that you've not heard of, maybe Bess of Hardwick. Penelope Devereux, people that I'm trying to put in some characters that people haven't necessarily heard of, so that you can kind of, learn something. Because I think, the easiest thing is to pick people you've heard of, right? So it's nice to pick some other people and put some of those in there. But yeah, my first idea was, Sir Francis Drake and the health and safety officer, and a really officious health and safety officer as well. Somebody who is just not going to let him go off in the Golden Hind until everything is absolutely secure,
Luke's actually sending me some other bits and bobs in. He said, dictators, everybody loves a dictator. I can see Pol Pot and the potting shed. And Roman emperors as well. He's throwing that into you as well. So
I think Karen...
Seasons and seasons.
Karen's just said something really interesting. They do have reenactment groups there, and Kerrie could give them some scripts. And that would be really funny. That would be comedy reenactment with real reenactment people. That would be really, really good. That's a good call, Karen. Yeah, really good call.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Kerrie, what level would you say let's say you're doing this for the next 20 years. What level would you say? Would you stop at Winston Churchill and Queen Elizabeth? Or would you, what point would you say, or would you go right back to the Roman era? Or is there a certain progression you're working to, or is it, how?
It's a good question, because actually, if you think about it, I stopped at Edward VIII, and I could have continued to onward, couldn't I? I mean, I could have gone into the Crown territory and gone into sort of more modern. And that's the thing. I just thought that if I go into the Queen's father, that feels a little bit too recent, and so I avoided him. And I thought, well, let's end on Edward VIII. Let's end on a monarch that's got some, some character, and we'll end there. So I think maybe it's about ending it when it's sort of not so much living history, but you're not going to offend anybody, because I'm aware that these are, people's living relatives in some cases. And so I think it's easy to go further back. So I'm much more happy to go back into Roman times than to go into recent history.
It's a good point, actually. But Nigel Gallymore's just put in the chat, Guy Fawkes. And that is one which makes me laugh. Every year we cause mayhem and trouble and waste loads of money by blowing up the skies. And I'd love to wonder what Guy Fawkes, if I could talk to him today, would think of it all. I think that would be a really good one, Guy Fawkes. But one of the things you mentioned, people still alive today or related to distant relations. I think one of the saddest things going forward from the last 10, 15 years is everything's recorded now. It's all on YouTube. It's all on Netflix. It's all on the internet. So what you're doing now potentially won't be possible in the future, because people will say, well, no, he didn't look like that, or he didn't sound like that. So it's things are going to change beyond my lifetime. And it's going to be potentially quite sad, I think, because in our heads, when I'm metal detecting, I find a Roman coin and I sort of picture possibly who dropped that. It's probably totally wrong, but in my head, there's no real evidence to trace that back. Whereas in 2094, they'll be able to, the chip in their head will create a hologram in front of them, the actual person who probably dropped that mobile phone. Do you know what I mean? That's me proper deep thinking. Deep thinking.
No, but it's true, because actually, if you think about acting, when you cast somebody, they have to look how you imagine that monarch to look, right? I mean, Henry VIII is a great example. You have to cast someone who physically resembles what you think he looks like. It's much harder when you're casting people for their voice, because you really don't know what they sounded like. So I can look at portraits and say, yeah, well, Henry V looked like that, or Henry VI looked like that, but we don't have a clue what they really kind of sounded like. So I had to really sit and think about the character of the monarch and think, but what would their voice like? Would they be very shy? Would they be very loud? Would they be very quiet? Would they be very dominant? Would they be very arrogant? And would they be very smarmy? Would they have a more natural accent? I mean, it's why, Edward III in the podcast is played by a Cockney, because I said to him, Del Boy. He's pitching a business idea. He should be Del Boy, because that's the kind of thing that I want somebody to kind of remember him as. So I think it's actually harder to kind of cast a voice than it is to cast somebody physically. It's much, much harder. And actually what was great was that Dan, who played Henry V, completely got the character of Henry and said, I need to be quite nervy. I need to be quite nervous and kind of, whereas the therapist is going to talk quite slowly and quite calmly, I'm going to be very nervy and very kind of, and it was brilliant. I mean, he got across the character in the voice, and that's much harder to do, I think.
So you said you did some voices in the podcasts. Where does that come from? Did you like drama at school, or have you had like an acting career? Or
I did a bit of stand-up in my 20s. I thought, when you do that thing where you think, I could give that a go. I think I'm quite funny. So I did a stand-up comedy course, and then I did stand-up for one day, and then went because I can't do monologue. That's the thing I realised from stand-up, is I can't just stand and talk. I need to have a conversation. I need to have two people talking to each other. So I then went off and wrote a comedy play, which I took to the Brighton Comedy Festival, and did that. And then the trouble is, in your 20s, you realise, oh God, this is going to take a lot of work, and I have a day job, and the day job is the thing that's paying the money. And you get that point where you think, now you've either got to commit to this or you've got to go and do the day job properly. And I chose the day job. So I went off and did the day job for 15 years. And then the trouble with creativity is I think it kind of sits there in the back of your head going, come on. You could do something. And you keep going, no, shush. And then you get to kind of, 40 a couple of years ago, and I went, I've got nothing to lose now, because I have a career that brings the money in, and I can do this in my spare time, and I can enjoy it, and I don't need to get paid for doing it. I can do it for the love of it. That is the absolutely best position to be in, which you don't get when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 20s, you're desperately trying to get paid for what you love, and that takes quite a long time. And I hadn't got that impetus to keep going for 15 years on an absolute piddly little salary and kind of work hard. So I think I've got the best of both worlds now.
It's finding a niche, isn't it? I mean, like, have you seen The Detectorists by Mackenzie Crook?
I love it. I absolutely adore it. Yeah.
I personally think that was a big risk by him at the time, because that could have gone one way or the other. But he obviously heavily researched it and got it down to a T, an absolute T. Simple things like when you're detecting near a footpath and you get a load of ramblers come past, and every single one, found gold yet? Found gold yet? Yeah. You've been doing this long? Do you ever find anything any good? You know, all the things we get when we're detecting, and that's why the headphones go on and you just lose it and ignore them. But that potentially could have been a bit of a flop if he'd not researched it properly. He could have annoyed lots of people in the hobby, but he didn't. And like yourself, you found, I mean, is there anyone else doing something similar to what you do?
I can't find it. There's loads of history podcasts, but they're all interviews. There isn't many history podcasts that are scripted, because that's what makes mine different, is that it's scripted. And it's less than 20 minutes, so it's quite, unburdensome. I always think our attention span gets less as we get older, so I think I probably got somebody for 20 minutes and that's it. So, yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. I think it was very... On paper, I bet the Detectorist scripts were not great. What makes the Detectorist is the casting, which is brilliantly casted, brilliantly acted, the beautiful locations, the cinematography that makes you just want to get outside. It all has to come together. And I think Mackenzie had in his head, that's my creative vision, that's how I want it to look, and then made it so. And thank God somebody trusted him with that creative vision, because unfortunately when you try to explain to people, you can't always get it across. Sometimes you need to see it or experience it to really understand what I find it very hard to describe my own podcast. I've tried so many different sentences to describe it, and I still don't think I've cracked it, because I'm not totally sure it is the same as anything else. So the Horrible Histories meet Psycho Bitches is the best I can do to kind of get across what I think it's like other things, because I don't think there is anything else that's sort of doing that at the moment, which is great. But the trouble is there's nothing to compare it to. So it is actually quite difficult to explain it to people how it works.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Kerrie, Luke's he contacts me all the way through every show with questions that he wants to ask. Excuse me. And he said he doesn't live really that far away from you. Eastbourne. I don't know how far that is from Croydon. But if you ever fancy going metal detecting, his group, he runs rallies, so open events where people can come and pay them X amount. He said, you're more than welcome to go along at some point in the future. He'll sort you out of a machine. He'll take you metal detecting there.
Oh my God, I feel like I've just won the lottery. I've always wanted to go metal detecting, and because I don't have a car and I don't have any equipment, I've been kind of hoping that the universe would deliver an opportunity to do it. So yes, please.
And you've also, Karen Becker, somewhere in the chat room, she's one of the organisers of Detectivals. She said there's a ticket there for you as well. So if you can get yourself till, where's that one? I think the main detective will be September, the 3rd and 4th. Somebody remind me. I think it is. If not, it's the 11th and 12th. And that's in Wiltshire. We'll go there and sleep in tents and cars and things.
I stay in a hotel.
Do you?
I can't stay in a tent. This bloke with a black hat with Detector Network on it might come and get me in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah, that's definite.
Yeah, I know it is. The big bear. No, I don't. I live in Essex, Kerrie, so I'm not too far from you at all. I've got friends in Croydon. So you're more than welcome to get in touch with me, and I go detecting 2 or 3 times a week. I try at least. So you're more than welcome to come out with me as well if you're interested in the hobby. So it is something which I think I was
Where
thinking.
Where do you live, Adrian?
Sorry?
Where do you live?
Essex.
Where?
Chelmsford. Why?
That's the word. Because I'm just trying to picture things in my head.
Roman town.
Stamford, Watford Gap. I don't know any of that.
Oh, of course you probably don't, Dave. So to get to Kerry, if I lived near where you are, would probably take 25 minutes. But in our part of the country, it'll probably take an hour. Kerry, Essex, to Croydon, because just traffic and, well, mind you, I don't know with COVID, but there's a lot of beaches, and I think with the hobby, Kerry, it's something which I've been doing it since I was a little boy, started, and now I write for a treasure hunting magazine, and I test machines, and it's something which it's lovely. It's good for the mind. So you could probably it would probably help you, because you could spend 90% of the day just not finding anything, but your mind's still working because you turn off from work and everything, and things go through your head. And I think it's very good for creative people. There's a YouTuber, Chris Addicted to Bleeps, who's on at the beginning of the show, and he's quite a creative guy. He's a metal detectorist, but he thinks of a lot of his episodes going forward and stuff and things when he's detecting, because you're on your own, no one's bothering you, and you can sort a lot of things out in your head. So for you, it may be good for you putting scripts together. And I would love, I'm in my head thinking of someone metal detecting, finding something, and almost the words like, oh, that's a lovely bit of Roman pottery, but actually it's off of someone's garden pot from Harlow in 1974, and you can almost imagine the voiceover saying, "You idiot, what do you think you're talking about?" Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. But the hobby is something which, on the show, the Big Detecting Show and archaeology, it's something we're keen on. But I think if you got into the hobby, you'd love it. You've never tried it before.
Never tried it before, and I've tried mudlarking, I've done archaeology, I've done all the other things that you can do to sort of practically kind of to help out, but I've never managed to do that, and I it's one of those things I want to tick off the list before I die, kind of thing, because I do. It is addictive. I think I probably would. I think it sounds like it's very like talk about mindfulness. It sounds like you've got these, you've got these headphones on, you're kind of cutting yourself off, and all you're doing is probably listening to the equipment, and you say you're in your own head, but it's like a mindfulness thing. So anything that gets me out of my own head and thinking too much is good.
It's
better than alcohol.
Definitely therapeutic. It really is.
And then you get to go to the pub afterwards. I mean, the best bit about archaeology and mudlarking is you go, right, I'm filthy, let's go to the pub now.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's yeah. Unfortunately, when you walk in a pub with the clobber we wear, or I wear anyway, you look like you're a sort of amateur tiler for a mud hut. It's got mud all over you and knee pads and malarkey. But
but most people have got camouflage stuff on, and you can't see them there anyway.
Yeah, I try to avoid the camo. I have got a bit of camo, but I try and avoid the camo. The landowner on my permission, because it's really hard, Kerry, to find land to metal detect on. It is really hard. Like,
Adrian, if you look behind you, Cy Webber on the front cover of Treasure Hunting magazine, you can't see him.
No,
you can't see him.
No,
he's
where I detect, there's a lot of shooting that goes on the land, and the farmer said the last thing I want to do is shoot you. So I don't wear a high vis vest, but we're quite visible. We're not totally camoed out, but sadly, the camo clothing is good. And it's hard wearing and waterproof, so that's why a lot of people wear it. But yeah, it's one of those things. But you could easily pick up any pretty mid-range detector and know how to use it straight away nowadays. There's a lot of good machines out there.
Well, I'm sharing the screen. We'll be going over his 1 minute till the draw. So Luke will be coming on momentarily. Next week's show. It's the 100th episode of the Big Detecting Show in different formats. We're hoping to be able to include several more prizes in the draw. So maybe 5, maybe 6. We'll see how it goes and what we can get hold of. Here we go. 11 seconds to go. So, can we see this, Adrian?
Yes.
Marvellous,
34 entrants.
34 entrants this week. First prize is Reading Tidal Rivers. Second prize tonight is Cleaning Pencil from the Cleaning Pencil Company. And third prize is 5 Diggers Dips tokens. So, Kerrie, what's the first number?
How many digits am I allowed?
You've up to 34. Number 34.
I'm going to go for my birthday, 27.
Adrian?
12.
I'm going to go 22.
Oh.
Build up. Oh, 25. Dominic Tomschick wins again. Good Lord.
Fix.
Second number, Kerrie.
I bet you're sharing
12.
Mr. Gaylor.
3.
No, 19.
Oh,
I haven't got one right for a few weeks, have we?
No.
Oh, it could be Adrian.
Oh.
I'd quite like another cleaning pencil.
Excellent. Two.
Suffering.
And that's Gandhi 2279. I bet his flip flops are dry.
Dave.
Kerrie?
Gosh, I can't believe it.
Unlucky 13.
Adrian?
11.
I'll go for 30.
What's 11 in bingo, Dave?
Legs 11.
Oh, that's
Kerrie
right.
said it. Oh, it's a low one.
Kerrie can do the bingo detectable.
I only know 2 fat ladies and legs 11. That's it.
Number 9, Taggart 28. So first prize, the Reading Tidal Rivers book to Dominic Tomschick. The Cleaning Pencil to Gandhi 2279 and 5 Diggers Dips tokens to Taggart. You will all be contacted via Digger Dips, via your email, and that will be credited to your account, or you will be asked for your details to send it out. Thank you, as ever, to Chris and the team from Diggers Dips, and obviously to Graham from the Cleaning Pencil Company. So there you go. That's that one done. Where am I? There I am. I'm back. Couple of notices. I'm going to throw the notices out while we're here. Don't forget, River Hunters, Season 2, started last week. So the second episode was on Monday night this week. Spring Detectable competitions. If you go onto the Detectable website, the competitions for the first week in May, which will be live on the Big Detecting Show on a special on a Saturday night. You'll be able to enter that. Adrian's got lots of things, no doubt. And also, tickets will be going online very shortly. I'm not sure if it's for the spring or... Yes, I think it's the Spring Detectable, which is in Henley-on-Thames. Detector Network has had a massive upgrade this week. So get on Detector Network. You've seen the McGrafter review already. Next week's the 100th show. The big issue this week, Adrian, and it's come in multiple forms. I think I've shared about 5 articles, and it's that night hawking again. There was one in Humberside, there was one in Cheshire, there was one in Kent, and the big one, the announcement this week of the massive Roman building that was discovered. It was announced yesterday to the world, and last night, lo and behold, it was night hawked.
Yeah, shocking, really, isn't it? I don't know if the police are up in their game because, well, there weren't many people coming out from the pubs drunk at night, fighting, killing each other. But there seems to be an increase in it. And I saw, funnily enough, something tonight, a landowner, similar to the permission I'm on, he's got hidden cameras around the fields. He's got loads of them. He must have like 50 or 60 of them. And I smile at them every time I walk past. But they're infrared, and one of them caught people detecting on a farmer's permission, and someone shared it. So it just, I think it's like fly tippers, but worse. So, the more farmers can do to stop, one of the good things, me and my mate, the permission we're on, the farmer likes us on there because we keep other detectorists off and fly tippers. So farmers could potentially, this is a different thing with the Roman site, but, if a farmer did allow you to metal detect on there, you would be able to see if someone had been detecting on there and keep an eye on the land. And also this, it's almost like the sort of big ginger cat down his street. Anyone comes in his yard or garden, he'll fight them and get them out. Not saying that I would fight someone. Well, I might, but no, but if someone came on my permission, it's a similar sort of thing. And we've had night hawkers on the permission I'm on, and the farmers put these cameras out now to get them, and he's keeping an eye on cars. But it's sad. It's really sad. It's one of those things with our hobby we've had to deal with for years, and it will continue, no doubt, and probably get worse in years to come with the popularity of the hobby that has increased over the last few years.
Thing is, though, you don't go archaeologists going onto an archaeological site and just digging an archaeological hole. You do get it with bottle diggers. There's been quite a few around these parts that have been arrested for such things. And mudlarking, going on a river is not really legal as such. It is.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you've got to ask permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, there's all these funny things going on in the world at the moment. So, it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. But, yeah, just make sure.
That was the parish notices section, Kerrie.
Parish notices, yeah. Warnings.
So, what is the next episode? As I say, I've got to put this week's episode up. What's next week's episode? What we look forward to?
Well, next week is Richard III and the Police.
Oh, is that the band or the police?
Actually, somebody does make that joke in the narration. He says, "Oh, I love that band." Although the trouble is, he's so young, I had to explain quite a lot of the jokes to him. There's nothing worse than putting a comment in about Morph, and he said to me, "I don't know who Morph is." I said, "Oh, get out."
Oh, did you slap him?
I wanted to, but obviously remotely it was quite hard. But mentally, yes, I did. I was like, "You child, how can you not know who Morph is?"
He'll be more Pingu, won't he?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Pingu, out of interest, how do people record their voices? Is it on their phones, or do you give them like a little device?
We did it very much like this. So there's a system called Zencaster, which is a bit like Zoom, in that you both sort of dial in to the meeting. But what it does is it records it locally. So instead of recording it through the internet, where the quality isn't brilliant, it records as if you had a mic right in front of you, and it records it locally onto your computer. And then what I got sent 2 separate sound files afterwards. So then all I had to do was merge them together, and it's the conversation. So that's really helpful for isolating out one particular person's voice, because you only get that sound file. And it just means that you get the crystal clear, the clarity. I mean, they weren't all great. Some people recorded using laptops, and you can literally hear the fan whirring in the back of the thing. So my editing skills were tested quite heavily when we actually made the stupid mistake of trying to record on bonfire night. And there's actually in the background. And I was going, why on earth did I agree to record it tonight? Of all the nights, we should have just left it. But yeah, so some of the sound quality is not as good as I would like it, but we had to make the best of what we've got, really.
Adrian, you know, this Zencast, it now means we can actually do that recording of Summer Nights that we've been longing to do.
Summer loving happens so fast. Yeah, actually, we did want to.
The accent, mate.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work on the accent.
No,
You
I
don't
was just
sound-
reading the words, Dave.
You don't
I think
sound like
I need to
Sandy
get.
at all.
I need to get in the outfit again.
Yeah.
That one you sent me.
Bit of
But I
spandex.
don't know. I do not recall her wearing latex. That's the only bit in the song I'm a bit confused about. But anyway,
What about a snake skin, perhaps, as she wore one of them?
I don't know. I can't remember. It's funny, actually, going into Greece. My daughter loves Greece. I watched it the
Snakeskin.
other week.
Snake skin.
Snakeskin. Oh, right. Yeah.
How many years now have I been waiting?
Sorry. Oh, Kerrie, sorry. Dave, can you still see me? Because I've just turned my screen off.
Yes, you're still there.
I can't see it. It's all gone wrong. The screen's
I
gone wrong.
told you we have technical difficulties. Oh, there, though.
Yep. Yeah. So these are things that we're not sponsored by them or anything. These are things that you put on the wire of your metal detector to protect it. And I was meant to send them to Dave 6 months ago, but because of COVID and stuff, I haven't been able to.
Yeah, you obviously didn't want to lick the envelope.
Yeah. So probably this week, Dave, I might send them to you.
Okay. I'll see you at Detectable, mate.
Yeah. yeah.
Well,
it'd be good, Kerrie, if you could get.
Who's selling them.
Yeah. It'd be good though, Kerrie. I think you'd enjoy Detectable. I think it's quite good fun. It's a very well organised event, very well organised, and I think the way it's organised pre-COVID would give everyone confidence with COVID that it'll be all fine. But how many people, Dave, turn up? It's a lot, isn't there? People
over the weekend. I think it's around 1,000, maybe. Karen will be able to say yes or no.
There's more than that. I've seen coach loads from France coming, which aren't unfortunately.
We'll look after you anyway, Kerrie.
Yeah.
Good. Can I have some sort of T-shirt with, this is my first time metal detecting, go easy on me on the back or something, just to put that out there.
I've got to write that down, but I'm sure, in fact, I know a guy who'd be able to make that, no problem.
Yeah.
And he'd be able to design it as well.
We do.
Oh, yeah. We've got our merch guy on it. Detectorware, detectorwareuk.com or .co.uk.
Just one thing, Kerrie. People at your work, do they know you do this?
Well, being self-employed, I have clients that know what I'm doing, and they sort of turn a blind eye to it because I think they think I spend too much time on it when I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing for them.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I don't. I'm very good at organising my time, and I'm very strict with, working on my personal projects outside of my employment.
Adrian, I was right. It is 1,000 people, and it's usually 3 times 50 three coaches of 50 French, so 150 French in total.
Oh, it seems more, but that's probably because I'm looking at double vision all weekend. I don't know, but it does seem more than that. 1,000 people, okay, yeah, it's nice, but it's really good. So because of COVID, we didn't have it last year, but this year it's all springs in summer, isn't it, Dave? And summer's in late summer, and it's all a bit bizarre.
Last year's events are now this year's events. I'll tell you what I'll do, Kerrie. We've actually got a Detectable box set up that Luke and I put together last year. 2 years ago, 2019, and you can just get a glimpse of what it's like through the through the box sets. That's on the website. Anyway, Kerrie, is there anything you'd like to add before we depart?
Nothing other than thank you so much for having me, and it's been such fun to talk to you and everybody on the chat. Thank you so much. It's been lovely.
It's been delightful to have you. It really has. It's something, obviously, we do. People see us primarily as a detecting show, but I like to include everything that the magazine encompasses. And obviously, it's been great to have you on tonight, and something totally different that we would normally have, isn't it, Adrian? Yeah,
and it's nice just having a chat with someone normal. No, I don't mean that. No, it's nice. Someone who's into metal detecting, but loves history. So we love history as a part of our hobby, but someone who just loves history, and I can see you've read up a lot on it. So it's nice conversation tonight. Very nice.
Oh, good. That's the first time I've been called normal for quite some time. So lockdown's clearly done me good.
Well, over the internet. I didn't mean it in person because you might be different. But
in person I'm a whole different story. Yeah.
I thought that. Yeah.
So am I. You wouldn't believe how well behaved I have to be on here, and what a difference I am in reality. I'm a little bit louder.
Have you got trousers on tonight, Dave?
No shorts, mate.
Oh, sorry. I thought you sitting in your pants again.
I'm actually.
I thought we were going to have a game of trousers or no trousers then, like on Ramesh's show, which I love that show. Trousers or no trousers needs to be in every kind of Zoom meeting that I hold. That would make it so much more interesting.
Yeah,
I'm actually naked underneath my t-shirt, Adrian.
Under your t-shirt? Oh,
yeah. And check the hair out. The hair's going even wilder. Look at this now.
Oh,
got a big
when did you last have that cut? When's that last cut?
Kerrie, it's been 15 years since I've had hair. I always shave my head. And while I've been off work, clinically extremely vulnerable. So I thought to myself, I can't be bothered. And then I started to grow out and I thought, I wonder what colour it is now. And then I've kept it just for the fact that it's wild and sort of like mad professor-like, and I'm quite happy with that.
It suits you. It does suit you.
I took my beard off last week, and that's a bad decision because I've not wore a mask because I haven't been out of the house, and the mask done my head in. So I shaved my beard off. So that's going to come back, and I think maybe a cool aqua blue on that, maybe, Adrian, next time. Bit of a merman look. Or I could do my hair as well and look like, I don't know, Mr. Frost or something.
I dyed jet black because John Travolta's got jet black hair, and I'll do mine blonde, Dave. So we'll fit in well.
All right, you do need to work on the accent, though. She wasn't a Cockney.
I'm not Cockney. I'm Essex. Not Cockney. I'm Essex. It's not an insult to Cockneys.
I thought she was an Aussie.
She is an Aussie.
She is in real life. Yeah,
real life. Yeah.
In real life. But yeah, she's Australian, I think. But yeah.
So anyway, just work on your Australian accent, and then you can, merge from there.
Right.
I was going to try it, but I won't.
I'm just looking if there's anything else to add from the chat room, and there's nothing. So next week, being our 100th episode, we'll be joined by James Baum. His YouTube channel is TV Presenter for History, and he's doing a series of history walks around churches and such like. He's also a correspondent for the Cheshire Life magazine, and you would have seen him on Time Team in the past as well. So we look forward to talking to him. He's also a metal detectorist, and he's had some bloody good finds. So lots to talk about with him next week, and some balloons, and hopefully somebody will send me some cake in the post because I like cake. Karen, cake.
Right.
In the meantime, we will be ending the show. I've actually pulled up the correct video this week. I've brought last week's ending video is the viewers' finds, Kerrie. And I played about 4 weeks before instead. So, and there's some absolute corkers in this week's, especially from the potential Iron Age gold deer of Mr. Gary Cooks at the end. So, enjoy. Thank you all. Thank you, Kerrie. Thank you, the viewers. Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Luke in the ether. Kerrie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously speaking to you. We've only spoke on email previously, so that's been great. So without further ado, thank you, everybody, and good night. Luke.
Night, Kerrie.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, let me up with a bright smile on now. Put me in the dark, so won't get lost now. To the moonlight, eyes you, Maria, right now. You look into my eyes and felt a feeling. Then nothing got it feel like a slim night. Hey, come on, closer now. live with you, call my name, love, ooh. Somebody else, and that is you, ooh. Falling in with you, not the only one doing me. You already feel it there. Give me a little more dark in the spotlight. Do I wanna know something? You look into my eyes and found love in me. Then nothing got a dream like a same night. Hey, come on closer now, waiting for you. But tomorrow is only, oh yeah. The moonlight's all around us. You look into my eyes, together feel so high. To make up with the twilight, my only, my bestie. Let me if you want tonight. 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 Ooh, I think it's
What's going on?
Goals. Heavy.
No
Kevin.
way!
Kevin.
No.
Oh, God, mate, I need to wet myself.
Kev,